Spider-Man Brand New Day. Spoiler review. Here we go. I love how Brand New Day starts off with Peter after the events of No Way Home. MJ, Ned, they don't remember him. No one does. So we kick off with our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, our street level Spider-Man, which is what everyone has been craving for. But it's bad, man, because it's a montage of Spider-Man doing Spider-Man things, but then it's fine because it's at the beginning of the movie. We haven't really gotten into the movie yet. So even though we're getting awesome comic book panels and flavor of the month villains, it's like, okay, yeah, what's going on? It's just starting everything, so it's acceptable. Then we got Punisher in here. And it makes no sense as to why he's here, because isn't the Accord still a thing? Or maybe it's not. I don't know what's going on. I mean, clearly, it's like the MCU is just mixed and mangled. Why would anyone, the police, the government, whoever, would let Punisher get away with all these things? I mean, he's not technically a superhero. He would be arrested on sight. But it's a movie, you gotta have fun with it, so whatever. And the Punisher, Spider-Man stuff is fun. You do feel the banter between the two characters. And I know a lot of people, I've saw some reviews online, and some people are like, they don't explain the whole Staten Island thing. They do, and then they don't. They use it for a gag. It never happened in any movie, TV show, nothing. They never met each other in any movie previously or TV show to this. So Punisher's just kind of thrown in here. It could be anybody, but it's cool because it's like they explain how the Staten Island incident happened to MJ when Spider-Man goes to Punisher's home, and then the death traps happen, and then Peter's like, the only place I can go to. And Punisher's like, well, you shouldn't have brought her here. And then they talk to MJ, and then Peter and Punisher at the same time go on to explain to MJ and to the audience at the same time. We're in MJ's position in this moment. Both Punisher and Spider-Man try to explain the Staten Island incident to us, but they're talking over each other so loudly that we can't get either of their perspectives of the story. So it's used for a gag, which is fine. It makes sense. And mentioning Hulk Bruce Banner, okay, he's in 2 scenes. I assume Bruce Banner is going to have that inspirational mentor aspect character in the film. But he does nothing. He's just there as a plot device to be utilized later on in the film to get possessed by Jean Grey, mind controlled. So he can go and get whatever she needs, and then they have the fight, and then that's it. That's the end. That's the last we see of him. It's useless. They could have did more with that than set it up for a gag or, some plot convenience. They could have made Bruce Banner as a character more rich. They could have really made the Punisher and Spider-Man's relationship more rich. And added more character development to it instead of just using it as a convenient gag or a plot device. So even though it works, they set it up to where, you look at it, it works. But at the same time, they could have done more with it. Like the villain here. Okay, there's no villain. There's no villain in this movie. There's you got Jean Grey. And you can say she's a villain because, she's killing people. But she's not really a villain. I mean, she's not justified. I don't know how you want to look at it. You just look at it from perspective. It's not black and white. She's set up as a villain because she's doing all these dirty, nasty things. Like the one moment where there's a moment in this movie where Jean Grey mind possesses MJ, and Peter, he's all obsessed with MJ because, they were in love, but her mind got wiped and she doesn't know who he is, Like there's a party scene where they play Tame Impala's Loser. Is a great song. In that moment, I felt it, and the connection to MJ, all that, it's great. He sees that she's got a boyfriend, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. But the nastiest moment, is when Peter, he goes to save MJ and he convinces her to come with him, and then they're standing there, and then it felt kind of corny at first because they kind of mimic Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, the first one with the Green Goblin, that upside down kiss. Because I'm like, MJ, what the hell, you don't know this guy, you're going, I need to kiss you in order to figure out. I thought that was kind of corny. But then once they reveal that that's not really MJ and that's Jean possessing MJ, and she says all these dirty, nasty things to him, like, oh, you're a pussy and you're a punk and I don't love you and you're a coward and you're a wimp and all this stuff. It's like, it breaks your heart because it's cold-blooded. She's so cold to Peter, man, and you just feel his pain. He's crying. He's like, I'm in love with you, but she don't want him, and she's cold, and it's like, oh, man. One of my favorite scenes in the film, and then, we see Jean Grey there, and then Peter's trying to protect MJ and say, I'll do whatever you want, just don't hurt her. And it's very nice, but then it's like, why is Jean Grey going after Peter when it's revealed later on that, Damage Control are the ones who are behind all of this. They're the real bad guys, but then it's not set up that way. It's kind of set up where it's like, we're the good guys, but then later on it's revealed that they're the bad guys. And then, Jean Grey's set up as the bad guy, the villain, but then later on it's revealed, no, she's not really a bad person. It's like she has a reason as to why she's doing what she's doing, even though she's going about it in a very nasty way. So it's like, all this stuff, Jean Grey, at a certain point in the movie, by the end, third act, it does feel like an X-Men Jean Grey movie. You completely forget about Spider-Man and his story until Spider-Man comes back into play, and you're like, oh, okay. But then it makes sense because they do tie everything together here. Because it's like, okay, there's another thing introduced. Peter Parker is getting possessed by this inner demon, this thing that is transforming him, giving him black eyes, and he doesn't know how to control it. His hormones are raging, whatever, and he's changing his organic web shooters. He can't use the web shooters he's created, so he goes to Bruce Banner, which, it's utilized in a way to where it's like, he talks to Bruce Banner about the device on his wrists. But it's just used as Peter needs to decrease the stuff that's happening to him. So he goes to Bruce to talk about how he's able to keep the Hulk at bay. And then therefore he uses that information to create a similar device for him, but a universal one that would, keep his dark side at bay. And, they do go through a few moments to where, there's trial and error, but I don't feel like there was enough for that. I mean, it's already 2 hours, but still, I feel like they do kind of breeze by it. It is trial and error at first, but then eventually he finds something and it works, and I do think it's beautiful when MJ comes in. There's so much stuff going on here, and I feel like it's juggled real well, because then MJ comes, it's like this plot here, this plot there, but MJ comes back in. And, you kind of forget about it, but she comes back and they have this tender moment where, she helps him figure out how to make his universal, decreasing his dark side device better. So you have that, nice touching moment there where, she's used in a way that helps Peter out and helps progress the story. But it's also used to help Jean Grey, because then when he fights Jean Grey and puts that device on her, he gets rid of her powers using it, and then therefore that's when it's revealed, she's not really so bad. Her sister got captured from these people who pretend that they're good, and they're using Spider-Man to get what they want and all this stuff. With the whole Peter, trying to control his darkness aspect, it goes nowhere. You're thinking, it's gonna maybe set up Venom. The whole symbiote thing that they set up at the end of No Way Home, which this now is just throwaway. You thinking, oh man, people were speculating the man spider thing, which they kind of hinted at with the whole Keith David narration thing, and how dare you use Keith David in the trailer and make it seem like it's gonna be epic when it's in some background noise. They do kind of hint at it, the whole transformation thing, but it goes nowhere. It's just used as a convenient plot device to get Peter out of a situation that, he couldn't get out of. That amounted to nothing. That didn't amount to nothing. Happened. I just didn't like it. But like I say, they juggle it real well because I can make sense of it, where it's it's used as a device, which is convenient for Peter to get out of the situation he's in so he can progress the story. But then when you think about it, you're just like, well, that's just kind of silly, man. You set up this thing that you set up in the trailers and you make a big deal out of, the darkness, and there's a couple trial and error moments where he tries to control it, but they don't really go anywhere with it. I mean, at least in Spider-Man 3, when the darkness was coming out of, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, we got the dancing meme, we got so much stuff, he was doing stuff that was against his character, whereas in this, they got nothing. Scorpion gets the worst end of the stick here as the flavor of the month villain, gets his ass kicked 2-3 times. He got the darkness, and got his ass whooped. It's like, that we got that one moment and that, you heard a cop, and that was it. And then you get to the end, and you got, Jean Grey, and she has the main villain captured in the chair, and she's about to kill him. And then she's got half of New York, under possession, mind control. She's gonna kill half of New York too. And I really enjoyed this ending because it's not your typical beat 'em up, ending. This kind of reminded me of the Doctor Strange Dormammu, I've come to bargain type ending. Because it's, yes, through the power of love, through the power of friendship, that Jean Grey stops what she's doing. Because this whole moment that they set up earlier with, Aunt May coming back, Peter visits Aunt May's gravesite almost, I guess, every day. Brings her flowers. And there's the one part where Jean goes into Peter Parker's mind and sees this moment between him and Aunt May, but then Peter pushes her out so we don't get all of it. And then Peter remembers this moment. And then Jean Grey, she's super powerful at this point because she realizes, hey, my sister's dead. She's been looking for this thing called VMAX. You don't know what that is. No one knows. And then she looks up and sees, oh, my sister's dead and she's died. And this whole backstory with her sister is this mom. Their mom put them up for adoption and all this stuff. So then Jean Grey's super powerful, more powerful than ever before. And then Peter, he's done everything. He's tried everything, and now he tries to just reason with her, right? But she ain't having that. She's like Sidney Prescott, just shut up talking to me. So she freezes him, and he can't move. Maybe he could have gotten out of it because he has the dark side, but he doesn't utilize it here. He's just like, you know what? I'm done fighting you. Go into my mind. And then she goes into his mind, and then connection. She goes into his mind, and she's in Peter Parker's perspective with Aunt May. And it's beautiful because it's like this one significant moment that was only meant for Peter is now something that has affected Jean Grey, someone else. So even though Aunt May is dead and deaf, she's still inspiring other people, and that's what the gravesite says. It's like you help one person, you help everybody. So I feel like, they're still utilizing Aunt May in a really unique way here, because that one speech that was meant for Peter helps end Jean Grey's cycle of nasty madness, which is cold-blooded. I can't stop saying that. I'm sorry. I mean, she murdered people doing this nasty stuff, bro. So that one moment, I love it. It didn't end in a fist fight. It didn't end in who's more powerful. It ended with a tender moment that was meant for Peter, but then it helped MJ, or not MJ. That was meant for Peter, but it helped Jean Grey as well. She, that power, great responsibility, all that stuff, that speech, you're special, all this stuff. That speech affected Peter, and now it affects Jean. And then also having that whole thing about, her not having a mother. That's a tenderly mother moment for her. And when they hug, you feel that. And now she looks at Peter in a different way. And, so Aunt May, even in death, inspiring people. She inspired Peter, and that inspires Jean Grey. And that causes her to not kill half of New York and the man that killed her sister. So yes, power of love, power of friendship, power of just, understanding. And it's great, and I love that. I can applaud a movie, a superhero movie at that just doesn't give you that generic punch him up, blow him up, beam in the sky type ending. And give me something else like Dormammu, I've come to bargain. I still think that's unique. I don't care nobody say. And that's what this movie does. It does, so it's beautiful. It all connects, even though, yes, it feels messy. It feels convoluted. You got Jean Grey here. It feels like an X-Men movie. You got Spider-Man in darkness, a mouse in nothing. Bruce Banner's in 2 scenes. The Hulk means nothing, though it's convenient for this convenient plot setup. All this stuff, and the MJ stuff, I feel like is pretty concluded. I mean, they're friends, and they don't become lovers at the end, which I thought was great. Because it's like, you can't just have everything handed to you. But then the Ned thing at the end with the handshake. The only reason Ned probably says Peter's name is because Ned is obsessed with finding out who Spider-Man is, right? And MJ says Peter's name at the party, like, oh, hey, this is Peter. And then, Spider-Man and Ned, they have a connection with the Legos and all that kind of stuff. Then at the end of the film, they do this handshake, and it's like in sync, and then he says, Peter. It could be that Ned has come to a conclusion that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, since he had that same feeling and connection with Spider-Man earlier. It could be just that Ned has connected the dots. Because he heard MJ say his name, and then, the man was intrigued. This man named Peter, who just randomly showed up at my party, is intrigued in all the Spider-Man stuff on my wall. He's the only one in the room, so he's really intrigued. No one else cares. Everyone else is partying. He sees that, and now MJ, says his name. This is Peter. And then it's like, hey, he meets Spider-Man in the full costume, the mask, and they connect over some Legos. And then at the end, they do the handshake, but it's with Peter. So then, Ned is smart. So that's what I feel like they're leaning at. I don't think he remembers who Peter is. I think he's made that connection as to who he thinks Spider-Man is. I think that's what that whole ending handshake and Ned saying Peter is all about. So maybe, since they did plant some seeds, maybe Ned will be the next villain. Because if you remember at the end of No Way Home, Ned says, after learning from the, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that he had a friend and he had to kill him, he goes to his friend, Tom Holland Spider-Man, and he's like, yeah, I promise I'll never become a villain and try to murder you or whatever. But hey, he don't remember who Peter is, and now he's all obsessed with him, so maybe we can get a new Goblin here. I feel like within this next Spider-Man movie, please, no more MCU cameos, no more, just make it a grounded, solid Spider-Man movie. I feel like that's what they're building towards. Because if you're going to build something with maybe Ned becoming a new Goblin, potential villain, just make that the plot alone. You don't need all this other stuff set up in here. And I could see like people hating this movie or not hating it or whatever, just not liking it, and it makes sense. And I can see why people do. I can see both sides, I feel, because they set all this stuff up and it's convoluted and it feels messy. But then when you think about it in hindsight, it's like, no, it makes sense because it's convenient for the plot to move forward and set this up for that so that we can keep moving the plot forward. But then when you think about it, you're like, well, that kind of sucks because this was so rich in the beginning, they could have set up more story with this. But the movie's already 2 hours and a half long. It would have been 3 hours. And it's like, do you really want that? But yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about Brand New Day. I feel like it's like there's so many emotional moments in it that it works for me. Even though it does feel a little messy, a little convoluted, but I still feel at the end of the day, it works. They juggle everything really well to the point where I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I get it. And I'm just like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought it was good. But it's kind of weird because when I do think about it more and more and the stuff I didn't like, I'm like, I don't really like this movie. I like it, but it's not really that great. But then when I think about the stuff that I did like, I'm like, no, so my emotions and stuff or whatever is going up and down, all the way around, spinny up and down like a roller coaster, just thinking about this movie. And I'm like, hey, if a movie can make me feel like this, then hey, that must be a great film, because long after it's over, you're like, damn, this, that, and the other. And that's what this movie has got me, bro. It's got Jean Grey, Spider-Man, Brand New Day, got me mind control because I can't stop thinking about this, that, and the other. So yeah, man, that's how I feel about Spider-Man, Brand New Day. That's all I have to say.